Hello class, welcome to our first video segment on Illustrator. So today we are going to go over Chapter 1, Lesson 1. Each video will contain one lesson from each chapter so that it's easy to find the content that you are looking for. So let's get started with Adobe Illustrator. The first thing we're going to do is go to File, Open, and we are going to go to the business handouts as always. So once it loads, we're going to go to the handout folder, all the way down to the bottom to business handouts. Then we're going to go to Shonifer, computer graphics, and Illustrator. So of course for this one we're doing Chapter 1, Lesson 1, so we need to open our Chapter 1 folder. As you'll see, it's called AI 1-1. AI is our file extension name for our Adobe Illustrator. When you guys are turning in your assignments, you need to make sure that, like in Photoshop, we have that blue icon, that when you guys turn in your assignments in Illustrator, you have this orange and black icon. So let's go ahead and open 1-1. It might take just a second. So what you guys should see is an image of a blue motocross, or blue, that is green, motocross bike. We're going to talk about exploring our tools panel to start with. So as you can see, we have all of our tool options, like on the left, like we did in Photoshop, and then we have our panels on the right. Same as in Photoshop, we can be in different workspaces. There are a couple ways to change our workspace. The first one is going to be clicking on Window, and then going to Workspace and selecting a workspace from this drop-down box. Then you can come over here to the right side where you have a drop-down arrow, and it's going to show you your different workspaces. For this particular assignment, we're going to be in the Essentials workspace. Then we can also look at our Tools panel. These double arrows for our Tool panel are either going to change the size or the width of our Tool panel. And then when we're looking at our other panels, it's either going to collapse them or expand them. So you'll see a lot of different tools, and you'll see a lot of similar tools to Photoshop. Like we still have a paintbrush tool, we still have a magic wand, but there's going to be some new ones that you're not familiar with that we will get to. There's also something called preferences in Illustrator, which we did not have working in Photoshop. So the way we find this preferences is by clicking on Edit, coming down to the bottom where it says Preferences, and then most of the time we'll start with General, and then we can also access those other drop-downs that we saw from General. So what I want you guys to do first is to make sure that under General that your option that says Show Tool Tips is selected, and then hit OK. What those tooltips is going to do is show us the shortcuts on our keyboard to be able to change quickly between tools or panels or functions. So you'll see when I hover over a tool, it has something in parentheses. And for this, what that's going to mean is if I hit the A key on my keyboard, it's going to take me to the direct selection tool. Same thing goes if I were to hit T, it's going to take me to my text tool. And you'll notice when I hover over text tool, it has that T in parentheses. So this is something that can be very useful if you want to learn to be quick and proficient at Photoshop or Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator. So next we're going to work with panels. So our panels are typically on the right side of the screen when we open a workshop. You can move them wherever you want, whichever makes you feel like you're most efficient to use those tools. Like we talked about, we can collapse them or expand them by clicking on this double arrow. And then we can also reorganize our panels. So if I wanted to move color out into its own section, I could. If I wanted to put color and swatches in the same area, what I would do is I'd overlap them and wait for a blue box to surround it, and then release. If I want to move something over into the same panel area but not be on different tabs, what I'm going to look for is that blue solid line, and then I'm going to release. So that is just an easy way to organize your panel in your workspace just like you did in Photoshop. And same as Photoshop, if you're looking for a panel to work with and you cannot find it, the easiest way is to click on Window and then find whichever panel you're trying to recover. So if we were looking for a transform panel, we can see that it is already open somewhere. And so let's look for our color guide panel. So we can add that in, and you'll see the new panel will show up, and we can place that however we'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in here. So that is the basics of lesson 1 and how to adjust your workspace in Photoshop, in Illustrator.